Let me tell you a little bit about MedStarter. So this is MedStarter Momentum, or MedMo. So if you're tweeting or doing anything, use the hashtag MedMo, M-E-D-M-O. And that way we get a lot of attention, which is always a good thing. Especially about the live stream. Live stream can always be found at medstarter.tv. There's a Zoom as well. So these are your judges. We actually changed some judges because we sent some people to the wrong address. But Eugene had a family emergency, so he couldn't make it. Driver, and Sunita is going to come after the PT appointment. And Inderpal, and Shereese Maynard from Hit Like a Girl podcast, and the fabulous Gals. They'll all introduce themselves in a little bit. And me. So Alex Fair. So this is you might think of this as Health 2.0 New York City. That's what we started out as 13 years ago. But then Health 2.0 got sold to HIMSS. I don't know what to call it. My company's called MedStarter. We're a venture fund. We use crowd validation to help figure out which companies are the most likely to be successful. Then we accelerate them and invest in them. So Meta is one of our CEOs. We also have Matt from Direct Shifts here, who's another one of our portfolio companies. And at least one of the companies you're going to see today is going to be one of our next portfolio companies. Why? Because those sheets you see in front of you, that's your judging forms. I want all of you, because all of you guys like Ed Bookstell, and even the other entrepreneurs like Dave Bell, you guys all have so much experience here in healthcare. And in order to do anything really of value in healthcare, you need to have experience, right? It's not like a 26-year-old, no offense, Patrick. He's 25. But, and he's the bomb, right? Big round of applause for Patrick Hurd, who did everything to make this happen today. Patrick Hurd. And he's never going to stop moving this whole time. Watch him. Anyway, so he also helping us is Avishai Nesabir, who makes those amazing dream, which is probably going to knock us on our butts. And we have 7 amazing startups that are all here, so we're very excited. Also lots of volunteers like Lucy Lee and Roby and Joshi. People have been helping us out for years, and some new people too. And Jen Rosen up front in Scrubs, who I'm negative. Anybody else tested? Everybody's negative, so good job, folks. So we like to have panels that represent the important stakeholders in healthcare. And if you look at the MedStarter logo, so it represents the 4 major stakeholders in healthcare: patients, care providers, institutions, and partners. And you'll see that that's who's on this panel. You've got a doctor, you've got economist/startup leader who's really changing healthcare, you've got a patient activist. I don't know what the hell Shereese is, but she knows a lot. So this is a good representation of the MedStarter method, which is happening. But also all of you represent all of those other organizations as well. So we're going to do 7 pitches, 4 minutes each. Okay, we're going to be a little hard about it. My name is Alex, to be fair. I try to make my events fair because this matters to us. So if you see what's in front of you, if you look at these forms, you see the order of the companies, right? And a little bit of information about the companies. And what I want you to do is think about, when you're listening to them, how they fit this rubric. We find this rubric is very predictive of who's going to be successful in healthcare. And if you're really excited about it, on the back side, if you say, I want to work with these guys, I want to invest in them, I want to try it out as a patient, I want to try it out as a care provider, I want to bring it to my hospital, I want to have it in my government organization, I want to bring it to my big pharma company. If you want to invest, where's Deanna Dammers? Deanna Dammers, the first time I met Deanna Dammers, who was one of the people checking the event today, she wrote on one of these forms at an event in 2016 saying, I want to invest in a company called Valisure. Anybody heard of Valisure? They blew up, right? They raised like $5 million and changed everything. I didn't invest in them. I should have listened. But Deanna did, and she wrote it on this form. That's where I saw it first, right? So that is amazing crowd validation. This one right here, she raised $136,000 again, 166 people to say, I am into her idea. And that was the first money in, and she really just changed everything. And for anybody who don't have use this,
that was pretty impressive.
She's my dad. Anyway, so let me get out of the way. Now let's get the first company up here. Which is Beam. So Beam is, yes. So, hang on. But I should probably take you through the deck a little bit and let the judges introduce themselves. So in the deck, we'll talk about what MedStarter is. MedStarter is a venture fund. We're on this MedMo World Tour. We did This is our 6th city so far, and we'll probably get like 20 by the end of the year. This is the schedule, which you probably can't read, but basically we're going to do pitches, then we're going to have networking, then we're going to do a little panel. These are the things we do. We do events, we do innovation communities, we do contests and challenges for big companies, and we of course invest in and accelerate the best companies we find. Also with us today is one of the startups pitching. You'll hear from her later. She represents the Maryland Development Center, so we might do an event with them. And this is the judging rubric. So even though this is here, you can also scan that little thing on both sides of the page. And that takes to the electronic version, which helps us figure out all the math. What else do we have here in this deck? Yeah, we can help you guys in lots of ways, also other stuff. Mentor network. Thank you to everybody. And yeah, so this, remember everybody to thank? Let's see. Mehta, yes, I thank Shereese, our judges, people who didn't show up yet, my brother, Patrick, of course. Yes, so I got everybody that's important who's actually here. So yeah, we have a bunch of sponsors. These guys work with us on our accelerator and all sorts of other things. And that's it for my deck. So let us get through to the first deck, which is Beam. So Patrick, if you want to help her get her deck up. Patrick's probably doing something more important. So,
are we going in random order?
There you go. Are we going in random order?
Yeah.
No, so if you look at this, oh, I'm sorry. Emedevents is first. Patrick. Why are you bringing up Emedevents? Why is there a different order? There's a different order in different places.
No, because you got to look at the bottom of the list.
Yeah, exactly. At the top of the second. This is actually not the final version. So some people have the final version. This is not it. So yes, Emedevents is first. Hey, come on, I'm on stage.
Preventing medical errors is crucial.
Okay, so, but before we do that, I want the judges to introduce themselves for a minute or two.
Hi, so yes, I would say I'm Robert. I am the founder and CEO of a company called Miami. We think for immunity. We've been able to, by applying process optimization to the human body, be able to detect triggers for autoimmune disease. So we are reversing autoimmune disease and reducing costs. And that's something patients generally seem to like feeling better.
Absolutely.
Okay, so hold it like an inch from your mouth and project.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Inderpal Chhabra.
An inch and a half.
Cool. Besides being a doctor, I'm also a All right, so I'm an internist. I'm a primary care physician. I've been in practice for almost 25 years, taking care of patients for real, not for so. I'm here to listen to the stories of which way things are going to help my patients. Thank you.
What kind of thing?
Internal medicine.
Oh.
Internist. I can. Can you hear me in the back?
The thing about
Yeah, there you
entrepreneurs
go.
in general is, if you can't shout out the room,
Yeah.
you're not going to have a chance.
Use your medical license.
Yeah.
Gail Valtown, CEO of Wise Care, a bit of a mad genius nerd, value-based care.
And, go ahead.
And what?
That's all she wants to say, Shereese. You can tell she's a podcast host. She wants her to talk more.
Gail's my friend. She's also a health tech influencer in the space. She doesn't like to brag, but I brag about her. She's amazing in the value-based care space. My name is Shereese Maynard. I am a health tech strategist. I've been in this business for 15 years. I have seen it all. I write. I speak across the country on these issues. I'm one of the founders of Hit Like a Girl, which is Health IT Like a Girl podcast. I'm one of the founders of Broken Healthcare. And I am the founder of AskShereese.tech. And I think that's it. They call me a key opinion leader and
Yeah, we're
Twitter famous.
influencers. We're influencers. We're health influencers. We've won a lot of awards.
Key opinion leaders are influencers who pharma will pay.
Well, yeah,
Lots of
but
awards.
in theory, they pay us, but we tell the truth. They pay us to tell the truth. So, yeah. So, industries pay me to tell them if their solutions will work, if they're scalable, and how much money they can possibly make. That is to say, in this country, healthcare, as I always tell people, is a business. It is not a care model. Think about that as you're developing your stuff.
So, So we have a guest judge. Would you like to be a judge?
Sure.
So who are you? Oh, Pamela Grace. Pamela Grace. I couldn't ask for a better guest judge.
I'm presenting.
I know, but you can be on the panel and ask.
Oh, he just wants me.
She's been a member of my community for like 10 years. Okay, so.
Okay, I don't know what the heck it is.
What's that?
I was making a joke. I know, nobody got it.
Nobody heard you, that's why.
Is this on?
Done, again.
It's a hot mic, be careful.
This has to be on the recording, right? I was a cheerleader, so I don't really need a mic, but.
Okay, so go for it.
Okay, I'm a patient today, and I'm presenting about a solution that I developed for myself during COVID when all the doctors abandoned the non-COVID patients.
Okay. Well,
How's that?
that's right. So you can sit in the chair and you can become a judge. So that's fantastic, and she will be our fourth presenter, and she can actually ask questions too as panelists, because I do like to have a patient voice always. So Priya Korrapati from Emedevents is going to speak first. You have 4 minutes. Okay, everybody on the audience, please fill out these if you need a pen. We have one here, and there's probably more someplace. But scan the barcode and do it electronically and make our lab easily so we don't have to update anything. And that's actually a much better system. So we have one mic, so you're going to want to hang the mic back to the judges once we get to the Q&A, and then you need to project, as Shereese was talking about, because they have a mic. Okay, ready? So when you start talking, then it's going to start timing. And when you're done with 4 minutes, she's going to tell you you're out of time. And then, if you don't get to anything, they will make sure they ask you the things that they want to hear. Okay, we have a total of 8 minutes. So if you go over, you can go like a little bit over maybe, but it's going to take away from your other 4 minutes. But yeah, don't mess with that. She's a timer. Okay, so you guys ready?
Yep.
Yeah. Ready?
We are the global medical education marketplace. What is global education marketplace? Why do we need it? Before I answer those questions, I have 9 physicians in the family. I'm the black sheep of the family. I'm a veterinarian. So, if you think of CME, continuing medical education, or CE, continuing education, discovery of continuing education is so chaotic. You know, Mayo Clinic, Cleveland Clinic, Harvard, Stanford, they won't talk to all these thousands and thousands of CME providers. They don't talk to each other. And CME credits tracking is hard. CME money given to the physicians, especially for the hospitalists, it's a use it or lose it. So that's another care. So physicians, they don't have time, and they need to do the whole thing. If you think of the other side of the marketplace, which is CME providers, who are the CME providers? Medical schools, associations, societies, pharma companies. They don't have one platform to market themselves for the conferences, and we did a case study about it. So what is the solution? The solution is one-stop shop where a physician can discover, register, travel. If it is online CME, take the CME, track the CME, report the CME. So it's a complete solution, one destination, one-stop shop. And for the CME providers, we are providing them the platform to sell their registrations and market themselves, and also, get as many as physicians as they can. Is it only physicians? No, it's for nurses, dentists, physiotherapists, chiropractors. There are 17 professions who need CME. So far, we are serving 160 countries. We started with 5,000 physicians per month traffic. Now we are serving 500,000 physicians per month traffic. And we are the world's largest CME marketplace. You name IVD. It can be, not only IVD, MD Anderson Cancer Institute, Texas Children, Mayo Clinic, Cleveland Clinic, Mount Sinai, they're all our customers. What is meant by customers? How do we make money? So, we make money by registration commission, online CME commission, affiliate marketing commission, and our marketing and advertisement. When it comes to pharma and medical devices, we get it through the infomercial and also grants and then they wanted to know do the surveys to the physicians. Now we spoke about the supply side of the market. Let's talk about the demand side of the market, which is healthcare professionals. So we wanted to charge them $75 per year to do the whole thing. If you want to go to London, we have the conference. If you want to go to Hawaii, we have the conference. And for nurses, 50. And let's see, that's the reason we are raising $2 million. As a seed fund, we did raise $2 million. Now we are raising another $2 million for the convertible note. Here is the plan. We have sales, marketing, technology, every team you can imagine. And this is an important slide. We did establish the ecosystem. We got the pharma, we got the SaaS model, and we are going to go for the application to the job market, and we are planning to exit 2025. That's all about Emedevents.
Good job, Priya. So we have 4 minutes for Q&A, and I want you guys not to pull any punches. And so if you guys will share the mic, be brief. You only have 4 minutes. So start.
First of all, thank you so much for a good presentation. I think you covered a lot of ground doing this. And one question is, what country did you start in, and why did you decide to go global so soon?
So we are focused on United States only. Around the globe, especially during the pandemic, you might have observed, they wanted to learn about the COVID. They were not taught how to teach COVID, how to treat a COVID patient. So 160 countries, we are, all the countries accessing our website to learn the medical education in United States.
It's always best when it's the customer driving the process.
Yes.
Thanks for the great presentation. This is, as a physician, I know that I have to look at my CME, and I have it easy. I just go on uptodate.com.
Yes.
I do exclusively all of my CMEs on that. Boom, I'm done.
Right.
The hospital that I'm affiliated with, they take care of my CME. I just log into the hospital portal. They track my CMEs. Boom, I'm done. New York State is easy. New York State, you don't really need CME to renew your license. Other states, you have to have my CMEs to renew your license. So that's a very important point. So the challenge is, and I see that you've been around since 2015, how have you been able to manage that, like saying that your affiliations with big academic institutions like MD and Singapore? Are you marketing their events, or is it internal as well as external, or is it just external only?
So think of Amazon platform. They all come and place their conferences here. All the physicians around the world come and tell. It's like a platform we are providing. So MD Anderson Cancer Institute, they cannot put themselves on the Facebook, but we can, because they're a state affiliate, the institution. We can. That's how we got them. So every institution have one thing or the other. I met Cedars-Sinai. It's a humongous institution in California. I asked her, Lisa, you guys have 300 marketing people. Why do you need us? She said, our marketing people are equipped to bring the patients in. But for CME, we need doctors. So that's the reason they are with us. So this is a huge market. It's a $36 billion market. So.
Hi, thanks. What's the current competition for where nurses and doctors go for their CME currently?
He
and
mentioned
sort of how are you tracking against that? What is your difference? Why would people pay? And the $75 is from the individual doctor and nurse. So why would they pay you the $75 as opposed to options that are covered?
Sure. You asked me 8 questions.
Yes.
Yes, I thought
Oh, I didn't know. Sorry about that. I didn't know there is a camera. These are my cameras.
They can watch
Okay, no problem.
These are the judges. All of them.
Okay, got it. So you asked me 8 questions, so I'll go one by one. So we have competition like up to date, he mentioned, and also there are some, but they have their own conferences. We are a marketplace. We sell up to date conferences. We sell Columbia conferences. We sell the Harvard conferences. We are a marketplace. So when it comes to marketplace, we are one and only right now. But during the COVID, WebMD, they have something called Medscape. They wanted to acquire us, and we said we are too small right now. So they have their own conferences. They are trying to expand into our market. The second thing is, why do they need to be paid $75 or $50. We have been a personal assistant for them. We send them notifications, hey, you have $5,000, use it, and you have only 15 credits. You're going to lose your license. Go for the conference. So it's like a personal assistant from discovery to the reporting. There are 7 steps. $75 per annum is nothing. For a nurse, $50. You know, so that they keep up their license. Oh, sorry, I'm not answering. He said don't answer all.
No, I want Shereese to be able to answer.
Yeah,
We're
so
out of time.
Well, let's let Shereese ask one question, just because, like, go.
I happen to work in the med ed space in continuing education. My question for you is, all these offerings that you're offering, are they aligned with, let's say, the American Board of Internal Medicine? Are they aligned with their landscape and their qualifications?
ACCME also.
Yeah.
Hello,
that's right.
ACGME?
ACCME.
No, there's ACGME too. There's all of them.
Yeah.
So that's a question. No, I have another question.
She's out of time.
Okay, but my second question is, why did you build it?
out of time.
Yeah, I asked everybody this, why did you build it?
Nobody put fake in a corner.
So the conferences here listed on our website, they're already accredited by ACCME, ACGME, all the institutions. Then only we put them as a CME credits, AMA, PRA, 1 category or 2 category like that. So we also we do the accreditation too because we partner with those institutions.
Why'd you build it? Why did you build it?
Because my own brother had the problem. When I was in Harvard, we got this as just like a, what do you call it, high lab, Harvard Innovation Lab project. And then 2014, I quit my job to be the CEO full time because we see the potential. The case study came back with flying colors.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we're on to So we almost always let the first team go like an extra minute because there's like working out, how things work. So if you guys all take a minute and fill out the forms, either online or the paper ones, especially the people who have done this. I think we should. Do you need a pen?
I tried taking the picture.
Does anybody need a pen? I got one pen. One pen to the highest bidder. Oh yeah. You want a pen? Anybody out there in the audience? I can't throw. I'm not a sports guy. Okay, so we're going to get the next deck up while you guys are doing that, and when everybody is looking up again, that's when we will go ahead and do it. Now, I tend to do the scoring while the person's talking. I don't hit submit, but if you skip one, and if you don't do it now, especially the electronic one, you're not going to remember later, because there's a lot of things, right? So, I will ask the judges, try to keep to one question, right? So you have a lot of time to think about it, and you only have 4 minutes, okay? So make it a good one, right? One of my favorite judges is Esther Dyson. She'll ask the most insightful questions. So I want to see a competition who has the most insightful questions. And so to the winners tonight, we have prizes, and to the best judges, we have prizes. So the best judges, the funniest, the most entertaining, and the ones doing the time. So anyway, so Metta's got to leave early, so we really need to get these things going. Also, I did ask Kermit to be a judge, so if Kermit wants to come up, I might kick you out the end of that thing if Kermit wants to come up. But certainly when we go up to, because he's an investor, and so it's always good to have you guys. Okay, so is everybody done? Judges ready? Judges ready? Okay, our timer ready?
Here.
Yes.
Oh.
Thanks. That's the way to make all the other presentations.
You just gave away a distinct advantage.
Whoops, it run. You bet it.
All right, Jeremy, here we go.
My deck is not yet.
Jeremy.
Yep.
It's PDF. It's PDF. Oh, what'd you do? You drag it to the other screen.
PDF doesn't work?
I just forgot.
Hold on. Just, I think you just there you go.
Okay, so, technical thing. Does anybody else have a PDF version? Well, now we know how to do it. Anyway, so Pelex, Dr. Jeremy Wiygul, and he's going to tell you all about it. Everybody ready? Okay.
Sorry, it's still.
I'll advance it just so you guys.
Okay, and go. Okay. Hi. Excuse me. My name is Dr. Jeremy Wiygul. I'm an assistant professor of urology at Weill Cornell, and I'm founder and CEO of Pelex. We're a clinical solutions provider for pelvic health, currently developing a medical device platform for disorders of the pelvic floor. So disorders of the pelvic floor affect up to 60 million Americans. That means 1 out of every 4 adults in the United States is affected by something like urinary incontinence, chronic pelvic pain, pelvic organ prolapse, and even sexual dysfunction. All of those are pelvic floor disorders. So this is a very large problem. Moving on. And there are actually 2 broad forms of treatment. One is an active a form of physical therapy for the pelvic floor. This is typically augmented by biofeedback. We call it active, and then there's a passive neurostimulation form. And actually, these work quite well. Move on. The problem is in access and delivery. Specifically, there are 3 pain points that we've identified in our insight work. One is obviously invasiveness, both in the form of surgery as well as in certain medical devices. There's actually a very large time component to a lot of these treatments, specifically the physical therapy, and there's also side effects involved. So what happens is this sort of shunts everyone over to the right-hand part of the screen, where people are wearing pads, they're wearing diapers, and they're just sort of dealing with it. And that's where we see our value proposition, next slide please, in delivery and access to these treatments. So specifically, we have our product is a medical device that is non-invasive and can be used at home and delivers both of those therapies. So both a physical therapy, biofeedback augmented module, and a neurostimulation module. And with those 2 treatments together, we can treat 90% of all pelvic floor disorders. That's something no other competitor can claim. Next, please. We're also building a digital component. Obviously, with respect to what we've been through in the past year, telehealth has become huge. We're developing the ability to track data for patients who can then have their treatment personalized by their treatment physician. Next slide. This is our competitive set. Because of our multimodality and our non-invasiveness, we are clearly differentiated from everyone else in the marketplace right now. Next slide. We are currently conducting our first clinical study. We're looking to recruit 20 patients. We've got complete data sets for 7. We have seen a 50% decrease in urinary incontinence symptoms as measured by the ICIQ. And this is for stress urinary incontinence symptoms, and we've even seen improvement in overactive bladder symptoms as well, even though the study was not designed to see that. So great results. We have identified our beachhead market as women 40 to 60 years of age with stress urinary incontinence and pelvic organ prolapse. That market by itself is 10 million people. Next slide. So our go-to-market strategy is built specifically on our sequential product rollout. Our first product will be the biofeedback. This will not be a prescription device, but because of the way people make buy decisions, people still go to the doctor to make a decision for treatment in this space. We have to win the recommendation of the physician. And the way that we do that is by robust clinical data set and by having a 510K submission. So we win that recommendation, they make the rec to the patient, who then goes to the e-commerce channel to make the buy. So next slide. So our timeline, this is expecting us to get all of our funding on time. For our first product, we're expecting market entry at the end of 2022, beginning of 2023. Next slide, please. This is just our revenue selling into our initial beachhead market.
You're out of time. So just finish up 15
Okay, so yeah, this beachhead market, initial product, you can keep going. We're raising our seed round. We've actually got $100,000 already of non-dilutive funding. This seed round will get us to an FDA submission for our first product. Next slide. Pass that, please. This is our team. We've got decades of experience in product management and development, as well as clinical and consumer marketing and commercialization. We've got everything in place to get commercialization done.
Okay. Pass the mic. You go first.
I don't think that was formal.
Okay.
First
And
of all,
also,
I don't
Lee
think
Joshi is also with the team. Raise your hand.
I love this idea. I'm already on board. I have a couple, one comment. I think your target size group is small. I think it's a little small. The other thing, because 20 patients is not enough to prove efficacy from my standpoint. But the other thing is I would ask that how do you mitigate access? So the patients most affected by these disorders will probably come from some marginalized backgrounds. So how do you make it affordable and affordable for payers?
Health equity. Great question. Okay, so how do we address health equity?
Okay, so first question first. So as far as the number of patients, honestly, some of that is just.
Comment on the question.
Okay.
She's raised.
All right. So as far as the second question, or excuse me, the only question is concerned. So our COGS is about anywhere from $25 to $50. So what we're identifying as our unit price is going to be $200. I'm going to be perfectly frank with you. We have not thought that far ahead in terms of how we're going to make that available to certain communities. That's definitely something that we are very, very aware of, and that's how we're going to be able to make the impact we have. But I can't. I'm going to be talking out of where if I'm telling you that if we have a strategy for that.
Yell's on.
I'm stumped by this one question. Can I ask multiple questions?
No. Pick one.
Okay.
We'll pass it to
Did
the
you show that you were going for FDA approval in months, not years? It seemed like it's in 2020.
No. Sorry.
I was like, that's it. That's the question, yeah.
Yeah, no, so the idea would be the FDA submission would be in the Q2 of 2022.
Okay. So it's misunderstood.
Submission.
Approval by 2023?
Yeah, that's a year and a half away.
Okay. So bring it back to the
Okay.
Actually, that was going to be my same comment. Like, well, what regulatory hurdles do you feel like the competition and what regulatory hurdles the FDA included? Any other things that you might be anticipating and how to mitigate those?
In terms of regulatory hurdles?
Yes.
So there's a very large predicate sort of body with regards to this. In fact, based on our regulatory guidance,
So if anybody wants to
we just need to do a usability study. We don't need to do clinical efficacy to get FDA approval. That's for the first indication. But going back to our go-to-market strategy, we need to get claims for every single pelvic floor disorder. So when we move on, yes, we will be doing more clinical efficacy studies. This is just to get into the market initially.
Great idea, by the way.
So we are out of time, so
Okay.
we will thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Okay, you guys know what to do. Please fill out your forms. So actually, no, Jeremy, come up here. Jeremy, come up here. So a question from Clubhouse. We have a bunch of people on Clubhouse, so we can ask this question while people are filling out their forms. So how is this device keeping bladder prolapse from happening?
It doesn't keep it from happening. It helps improve the symptoms. And the way that works is that bladder prolapse is due to usually a combination of a weakening and lengthening of the pelvic floor muscles and sort of the supporting fascia. And what this does is it can strengthen the muscles and actually shorten them, so it creates more support for the bladder. It's not actually resolving the organ prolapse in the way that surgery would.
So it's not a cure.
Exactly.
Yeah, go ahead, Priya.
Your go-to-market strategy seems to really revolve around these physician referrals. How do you reach the physicians? What's your strategy to get them?
Okay, great question. So the question was, how are you going to go to market with physicians? You have 15 seconds.
Oh my goodness. So unfortunately, this is where the folks who are working on the project that that have experience in sales would be helpful. But so it's essentially we're going there with our clinical data, with our two physicians, and just showing them what we've done in terms of proving the concept.
Okay, big round of applause for Jeremy. Thank you, questions later if you want to try to noise or whatever. So this will be a lot of fun. So the clubhouse people are I clubhouse people. That's Shereese. Anyway, and Inderpal. So a lot of, and Meta, you see her every week on the Startup Show. Did you guys do that show every day, right? Every Thursday, 5 o'clock Eastern time. So yes, here, live in person. So next up is Katie Bell, speaking of live in person. I assume everybody filled out the forms while we had those bonus questions? Yes, everybody ready? Okay, Katie Bell, come on up. So Katie, you got 4 minutes. Your timer here is Meta. And so, I don't know.
Good luck.
Let me get out of your way.
Thank you very much. So yeah, I'm Katie Bell, co-founder and CEO of Theme. So I'm sure everyone in this room is familiar with somebody that's living with a long-term health condition such as cancer or kidney disease. And for these people, the benefits of exercise and well-being can be profound. But despite this, non-adherence to recommended exercise is normal behaviour, and that's due to the burden of treatment, the lack of access to tailored resources, motivation and enjoyment. This is normal. As somebody with a long-term health condition, exercise will likely be introduced into her care pathway from her clinician after a hospital appointment. And after knowing all those benefits of exercise and being taught them, her exercise levels will likely peak after that appointment. But the reality is over time they will dwindle and activity levels will fall. Welcome to Beam. Beam is a place where people with specific health needs can come to find tailored exercise and well-being classes alongside a community of people going through the same daily challenges. We provide access to health-specific exercise content, and that is through on-demand exercise and well-being classes, as well as live classes and community support. And our classes are run by physiotherapists or people, trained exercise professionals who are living with the health condition themselves. We ease the burden of treatment, increase motivation to exercise, and increase enjoyment to exercise. And how we do this, people have the resources and the motivation to keep their activity levels high between hospital appointments. We launched in 2016 with cystic fibrosis as our first health condition, and since then we've stayed very focused on CF, and with the COVID pandemic hitting last year, we accelerated very quickly to react to that and have launched kidney disease, prostate cancer and pediatric asthma in the last year. We have made 875,000 in global revenues to date, have 8,000 signed up members from 61 different countries, and we have launched officially in 5 different countries, having sold and working with some of the top clinics in the area. Our business model is B2B2C. We're really passionate about making this free for the end user, the end consumer. And to date, we've proved our concept through sales of sponsorship and product licenses to charities mainly. But we're just transitioning into our next phase of our business model, which is selling our service to pharmaceuticals. So we're looking for a differential in the market and to give their customers something beyond the pill. Myself and my co-founder met in London 4 or 5 years ago and launched this product together. I'm from a software engineering background and I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm a full-time founder. And my co-founder Pamela is from the clinical side of things. She's a physiotherapist and has a wide network in the health sector. We're also supported by a team of 7 other people working all remotely. And the stars of our show are physiotherapists and instructors who are teaching on our platform. Our vision is to be the go-to platform for exercise, education and well-being, servicing 35 different health needs by 2027. And the next step of this journey is to raise 2 million to invest in team, product, evidence, and governance.
Perfect. 2 seconds to
Okay, I'm on Q&A period. Who wants to go first? Anyone?
Oh, yeah, put you on the spot. Put us on the spot, right? It will be white in here, right? All right, so I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, like, this is such a dull idea. How come, what's your competition? How many other companies are already out there doing this already?
So really, really good point. And we were trying to find a direct competitor that's doing similar things to us in the market right now, but we can't. But in terms of competition, we see ourselves sitting on the intersection between generic fitness platforms, dedicated physiotherapy apps, and video sharing platforms such as YouTube. But we're not generic. We are health condition specific, and we're not physio apps. We're very much looking to be more on the well-being side of things, a much more approachable app. And YouTube will always be there, but safety and security features and lack of motivation features that we offer on the
So the revenue to date, you mentioned charities.
Yes.
Is that the predominant source of revenue to date, or?
To date it is, yeah. But we are transitioning right now, knowing that this isn't a sustainable model. That's how we got to our proof of concept stage. We are looking at pharmaceuticals at the moment as our potential, and for the last 3 or 4 months we've validated that with promising conversations in the fibrosis space specifically. I know to health insurers, we haven't done a lot of validation on that side yet. So obviously, not as big in the UK as in the US. So.
I was just gesturing to the clubhouse that we're not paying attention. You guys questions? Okay, so if you guys didn't hear, she guessed that's our revenue source today, but she's got other funds.
What kind of conflicts do you see in taking pharmaceutical money and how that may impact? It's got to be asked.
Somebody
It's
has
gotta
to
be
ask.
asked. Somebody's got to ask.
Yep.
Okay, so the question you hear is how you feel the Eagle part.
Good question. So we have discovered 3 legal reasons they are going to sponsor us directly for the service and not going to pay for the service directly. And hence we'll go through charities probably as our partner on this. So which actually fits very well with our go-to-market strategy for consumers. It's a very good distribution channel to have a major national charity on board. So yeah, we're going to be contributing that through charities.
Okay, we got 1 minute left. Anybody have more questions?
I
Oh, Shereese has a question.
Shereese has a question. Singular question, not general question.
Okay. So we do see these models. I can think of one you might want to research off the top of my head, Carium. CARES does a model of this. The reason why these models, for what you're trying to do, typically aren't successful or sustainable is that we know from research that patients, no matter how diligent they are, at the 6-week mark, they usually die off. How are you mitigating that?
Thank you, Katie.
Sure. So we are working in collaboration with behavioural change scientists to develop our features, our motivational features to combat exactly what you were talking about. So we're doing it through behavioural change science, particularly the behavioural change field that was developed at UCL London.
Thank you
That's
so much.
our biggest challenge.
Any questions from the crowd? Hey, Buxell.
I'm going to say, listen. No, I'm going to say flat out. About 4 months after I was here the last time, I had my heart cut out of my chest and put right next to a Corona, a bunch of Coronas. So the point is, this is absolutely critical, I think, and it's very hard. You're dealing with a situation where there's a lot of free content out there, and there's a lot of folks that want to go ahead and actually see what is for real. And I've looked at this whole area because I'm back in the gym. I dropped from 190 pounds. We were just talking about this, Shereese. I dropped from 190 pounds fat boy to about 166. And I think this is important, but the toughest part is the monetization. And I'm just,
How are you gonna make money?
how do you monetize? Okay, go. Here, I'm gonna throw it to you.
Yeah, so we've got 2 million that we're looking to raise. We are definitely going to spend 18 months validating our business model. But really our primary business model is to sell our service, our annual service, so it's a recurring annual service fee to pharmaceuticals, as I said. But yes, it will be a challenge, but we managed it to date and we're showing traction in that area.
Okay, big round of applause for Shereese. She will be available in the comments. And there's only 4 minutes for questions and answers. So really great job, Katie. Patrick, I don't know who the next person is, so we get it done.
Gravitas.
Pamela.
Gravitas Labs.
Pamela. Oh, excellent. So Pamela's going to come up. We're going to get a big round of applause for Katie Bell. Really great job. So now you can take a moment to fill out your forms. So that was where you found?
Yeah. Before you ask the question.
Yeah, tell me that.
Oh, no, I thought we were done.
So as you can see, this is a meetup style event. Okay, this is not your big fancy conference. This is a bunch of volunteers doing things because we like doing it, and also because we want to help innovations. We actually started this community originally just to help innovations. We didn't have any business model. And tried to break even on events. We don't anymore. We now lose a lot of money on events. But we have a venture fund behind us, so, you know, it works. Anyway, so Pamela has been a member of our community for 8 years. We've been texting forever. I didn't met before?
No, I didn't recognize you. Did you?
I thought you were white. It's crazy. That's why I didn't recognize you. Look,
I pass for white all the time.
Exactly. Anyway, so
You have a lovely voice.
you have a lot of choice. No, we talked on the phone and said it.
And she sounded white. Let's not go
Just
there.
trying to get you out of one of the
So anyway, so
We have been in meetings together.
okay. So Pamela, would you like to give?
Okay, well, I'm Pamela Grace with the White House.
That's the block.
That's the what?
That's the block.
Oh, thank you. My name is Pamela Grace, and I founded a company called Gravitas Labs because I'm a patient who couldn't get to doctors last year during COVID-19. On February 6, 2020, I was in the shower, got out of the shower and fell backwards on the wet bathroom floor, hit my head against the side of a cast iron tub and split my head open. Yeah, so I went to the firemen and EMTs came and picked me up, and they wrapped my head like a mummy to stop the bleeding because evidently your head is very vascular and you bleed a lot. And I did. But my bathroom looked like the movie Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. For people who are old enough to remember that, that's what my bathroom looked like. So they took me to the hospital and I did advanced surgery. They stapled me back together and sent me back home and said, come back on the 23rd. I went back on the 23rd. They took CAT scans and x-rays and I said, well, okay, whatever. And I said, but what about all this stuff dripping out my nose? It'll go away, don't worry about it. That was February 23rd. March 10th, New York City shut down. And the only people who could get to the hospitals were COVID patients. Well, I was a non-COVID patient and I was sick. This is my story.
What's the innovation? Get to the innovation.
So, okay, so here we go. So the only therapies they had to stop my massive headache at that time was either to put an implant in my head, turn me into a cyborg, or shoot needles into me with either Botox or steroids, which I did the steroid treatment, which was very painful, it didn't work. Give me pills, it didn't work. So I invented my own external occipital nerve stimulator, meaning it's outside of my body, and I did it by taking a TENS unit and my soldering iron and putting the things together and wearing it on my head. My engineering background, I built one. And so to make it even sexier, because investors said they want something sexy, I made it so that you can control the modulation with your mind.
This sounds like science fiction.
The neuromodulation market is huge, and I put up here two forecasts from investors. You can see before and after the COVID pandemic what the forecast is. And just occipital nerve stimulation is a subset of the whole neuro market and neuromodulation market, which is growing. I have several competitors, but none in occipital nerve. Here's my closest competitor, which is Syphily, and they have this strange device sitting on the back, it's sitting on the front of your head, and it's for another type of nerve, not occipital nerve. So I'm basically alone in the external market. Who are my end customers? We're going to have to sell to the hospitals and pain doctors to get to patients. We have an intellectual property business model, meaning we're going to develop a lot of intellectual property that we're going to be licensing. And we're going to exit the company after we finish our clinical trial 2 and just sell the company at that point. That'll be in about 5 years. Current valuations are $100 million.
Sorry. You have time.
Okay, so, okay, really, not round of applause. So I actually happen to have a leader in adopting psychology innovations here and mental health innovations. Owen, Muir, do you have a question for Pamela?
So, first off, baller. It's a remarkable approach. We've already validated this with the FDA with ADHD right before the pandemic. A transcutaneous stimulation device was approved. What's your kind of getting this to clinical trials is going to be easy from a risk perspective, I would imagine, but showing me what's your primary outcome in the clinical trial, essentially.
Second question. Go ahead.
N of one study. It worked on me compared to all the other things that doctors tried to do. Efficacy. The slide that we weren't able to show you was that we have another patent for pain assessment. Clinical trials are unsuccessful today in this field because there's no way to assess the level of pain. Your pain is different from my pain. We have no way of measuring that, so we've come up with a way to do that.
So, Pamela's an inventor, okay, so she might need a partner. You guys don't want to talk.
You probably do want to talk to me because...
Let other people ask questions.
You probably do for the last bullet, because our one other invention is how to fund medical device companies.
That's a great question. Shereese?
I love the promise of this. I do have a couple questions real quick. Who else have you tested with someone besides yourself? That's the first thing. And the second thing is the neurodiversity crowd, I think, would be a great option for this. Have you done any research with working with kids on the autism spectrum and that type of thing?
No kids. This is for adults. No kids. This is for adults.
Just adults.
Adults. Because you can't get an electronic device on a kid's brain and not know what's going on. Their brain is still growing, so I'm not touching kids.
Okay, next question.
So actually, it's a question for both of you. You said clinically it has been validated. I would love to see some more data about it before I put myself with electrodes on my head.
Give
Now.
me your business card, I'll send you the study.
Okay.
It's been validated with NIH studies, and I'm there, I cited some of the studies to show you the data. We've already had proof of concept.
Could you please explain where you are in that process? A little more detail.
We're on the patent process. Several patents have been issued, which we're using as a base, and we're in the process of finalizing the drafting for the provisional patents. Because I'm over 65, the patent should issue next fall, because we're filing a petition to make special. So our patents will go right through.
No, it's fine.
So I have a question. So one of the things I see with inventors a lot is that you have an idea, you create something, especially patient activist inventors like yourself, who solve the problem for themselves, and they're not really sure where to go next. So if you're going to add somebody to your team, who do you need?
I do have a slide with this. I need the next person. So I need somebody who's a specialist in fintech right now.
What fintech?
Because one of our patents is an IP securitization patent for funding medical device companies. It turns out medical device companies are special in the securitization field. What was your question?
Who do you need on your team?
Who do I need on my team? Well, I have a lot of doctors already. I have my prototype developer in New Jersey, so right now I need fintech.
Okay. How are we doing with time, Matt?
We are out of time.
Okay, we're out of time. Big round of applause for the other inventors. You guys know the inventors you guys know. But oftentimes, you might have one leg or two legs of a stool, but it's not going to be stable, right? You need the whole thing. So I would definitely see Pamela and Owen working together. Because Owen's actually worked with a bunch of innovative devices and could probably help with that. He also is very disruptive in a lot of ways. So you guys should talk. So please fill out the forms if you guys haven't already. Do it online. We'll have you. Next. Umbrosys. Yes, we're going to get that queued up. So you guys ready? Everybody's all filled out? You guys know how it works now, okay? So we're team number 5. We've got 2 more teams after this. You could take a break, but then we're probably never going to get back. So let's finish this. No breaks, right?
That was like a teaser.
No breaks. Yeah, you guys want a break? Anybody need a break? So, or if you want, go get a drink. We just replenished everything. So Umbrosys is. So I lost my sheet that I said right. So Patrick, is you ready? Yes, he is. Okay. So you have another name. You've got nozzle. Do you have your device? Oh, Pamela, do you have your device?
My patent attorneys have warned me not to bring it in public. I can let you see it under a non-disclosure until we get the patents filed.
That's the right answer.
Do you have it with you?
It doesn't leave the house.
Okay. So the answer is no.
Who asked that question? Did you ask it? Who asked that question?
I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name. It's on in Russian. Silence! Silence! Anyway, okay, yeah, go ahead.
All right, thank you so much, Alex. Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. My name is Jan, CEO of Umbrosys. And I'm here to ask you a question. So, have you ever felt under pressure in front of deadlines or in front of public pressure, your boss, your any other duties? So, I'm asking because most of people have. And so that's why they use this harmful stimulating substance and drinks, and they actually dream about something healthy, health alternative like a tech, because they also have a liquor. Because they also engage by mass culture and all these role models, fictional characters, or real people, to use advanced technology to get an advantage, right? Super achievers. And if you actually try to find a super achiever device on the market, you'll find nothing because it's hard to do. You have to do something useful, effect, for people, and it must look like cinematic. because to meet their expectations. And there is huge demand, billions of dollars for those who can actually supply this kind of devices. And it means instant effect instead of deferred result. Instant cancel, while they should just keep you about 8 hours out of bed. And it must be healthy, while they cause heart problems, brain damage, cancer. And sounds not bad, right? Wait, there's more. The device is way more practical. It's slim, it always with you, it alters rating, so it looks like a sport car compared to old piece of junk. And of course the science behind it. So who will respond to this call? It's right here for the view in this case. The device is ready. We've now discussed science, the production, and outsold the test batch about 1,500 units worldwide, mostly in the US. Now, you may be asking how it actually works. It works on 2 levels, physiology and psychology. So the device increases the natural level of neuromodulators, like noradrenaline, and it's reliable and has no side effects. So the device does not require FDA approval because it's intended not for sick people, but mostly for healthy people. And what is great thing is an opportunity, because while there are huge drinks market, we basically start a new super cheaper devices market, at least 1 billion size. And customers love it, so we're pretty sure about this. And to get this, to acquire this audience, you have to send the right message that this is a super cheaper device. So with this, we can expect this type of growth: 20,000 units within the first quarter, and double it every next quarter until 23 million profit revenue in first year. So how to do this? You have to send a visual message. So we have a director to do this. It's not too expensive, about 25K. And we're looking for just $500,000 to make this, to have this done. And yeah, here's our audience. Two sides of the picture. Left side are most ambitious, perfect early adopters, and right side are professionals who conservative and stubborn, so we leave them for later. And actually, the entry barrier is unbearable for no names because our software is encrypted. It requires a hell of researches. So it's only our competition as large brands. For them, it takes at least 3-4 years to bring the device. We have a full team. So I am still an entrepreneur with a chemical background and IoT experience. Then we have ex-reputable marketing executive who led their marketing in a few countries. So then PhD in physiology and skilled CTO and digital marketologist. So thank you for your attention. I'm ready for your questions. I can actually show you the device.
Okay, so by the fifth presentation, we finally get this down, right? Okay, so who wants to go first?
I have a succinct question.
Thank you.
Yes, succinct.
Can you explain how you sold 1,400 units already?
Sorry, once again?
How you sold 1,400 units?
Can you explain why you sold 1,400 units?
Yeah. Mostly the own website. We have the worldwide demand from many countries like New Zealand, Europe, Australia, and you name it. And Amazon, of course, too. So you can find reviews on Amazon. So mostly 5 stars, and you can find even single negative reviews online. So this device has a large wristband, right? And this one is normal. So 2 sides are wristband.
Other questions?
Yeah.
Judges?
So, what's stopping the back alleys of Shenzhen from making this?
What's stopping?
The back alleys of Shenzhen, China from making this.
It requires researches and actually the marketing. Yeah, it requires too much researches because you have to know what you're doing and you have to get feedback from paid audience, right? So you have to know all this, and it's encrypted in our firmware, and you can't just copy this into, you have to research this from the ground. It's a hard thing to do. So the only competition is large brands.
Other questions? Okay, we got questions. I'm going to use. First, introduce yourself.
Jen Biden, venture capitalist Jen Biden. Could you tell me, are you shocking the adrenal glands, or what are you doing to cause this sensation of awakeness?
Yeah. Thank you for your question. All right. So there is a special pattern of electric signal which causes an increase of natural level of noradrenaline, right? So it keeps you awake as long as you live, and also provides a few useful effects like your brain works faster and your focus is better. That's the thing.
Okay.
And no side effects.
Okay, big round of applause for and if you have this device, please, we have a question from Paula.
You're missing a target market.
Mike, thanks,
You're missing a target market.
Kermit, 1 second.
Can it be used for ADD?
So the question from Clubhouse is, can this device be used for ADD and ADHD? And then Kermit, we can talk about that in a second.
So, yeah, it actually can be used for this and for narcolepsy, but we currently don't target this audience because, you know, it's kind of medical appliance and requires FDA, obviously, right? We designed this product for healthy audience, like a Red Bull. So they sell medical products, medical drink for healthy people, and there's a huge market, much larger than just, you know, ill people. That's the idea. Thank you so much.
Okay, so Kermit has a question. He's another investor. His point was that Kermit, just to paraphrase, a lot of times with energy drinks and things like that, you develop a tolerance and other types of drugs as well. So how do you prevent? How do you answer that? How does this not develop tolerance? And also, if you have the device, please pass it back.
Right. So our device has many levels of power. You can change it in real time from 0 to 100, and it's very easy to adjust to your personal needs. So no tolerance guaranteed. So you'll never get tolerant to this device.
Okay, big round of applause for Yan. These are amazing songs, right? I mean, I don't think I've not been impressed by a single one. So really great job. I have a question. Why are there blue LEDs in that? Open up the case. Show them the deals.
Would you prefer red?
I'm just saying, like, you know, it's not strong enough to give it the glow on the, you know. Okay.
Yeah, it's just a blue, you know, lighting because
he knows how to do
it looks pretty cute.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're trying to sleep in the middle of the night, you can open it up.
Yes. Okay, so
I wasn't sure about
we have 2 more shows, 2 more events.
I forgot something. My device grows hair.
Okay, I guess that's payback for my misperception. Anyway, okay, so thank you for that question, great question. And we have our next contestant on the new ideas, right? Owen Muir from Brooklyn Mind/Sphere. Yes, I think I asked a question. You had a team the other before. And Patrick, we get his backup. Also, I'd like to thank Owen. Turn around to the crowd. I'd like to thank Owen for doing the audio. He's the one that made his mics work, which without him we'd just be yelling at the top of our lungs. So thank you, Owen. And music. So thank you, Owen.
I'm just going to yell at the top of my lungs because I don't think the mic is very good, but I do want the folks to have it. It would if I didn't speak louder and more clearly than the microphone allows. All right? Okay, who here's on Clubhouse? Right. Has anyone been to the Sphere Club?
Yes.
Right, that's my club. We got 22,000 members. Hey, it's a company too.
You mean you're not just a frontier psychiatrist?
We're not just. So I'm Owen Muir. I'm a child, adolescent, and adult psychiatrist. I also happen to have bipolar disorder, which is how I got into this in the first place. And one of the things I did down the street at our medical practice was after I got treated with transcranial magnetic stimulation, and it worked better than the research I had read, we started utilizing that modality among others. And we deal with really sick people, but we found that we don't get paid very well by third-party payers. So getting access for people is hard if you don't want to go broke. And I just kept hearing, the payers, the payers, the payers. I'd rather be one, and that's what Sphere is. It is a direct-to-employer solution for the bad situation that is mental health insurance. We did a study, it's not published yet, the number of providers, the percentage of providers that are satisfied with health insurance is 1%. The rest of them think it's bad for patients. It's bad because it's expensive. It's bad because it provides access to ghost networks in which there is no actual people with any open spots. And this is unbelievably frustrating to people who are suffering, and we figured we could do better than archaic treatments that came to market in 1988 like Prozac. And so our solution is to make that accessible by going direct to employers. We use effective solutions with large effect sizes like neuromodulatory approaches, which it turns out have bonkers large effect sizes. We're talking 1.7 effect sizes, 1.2 for mentalization-based treatment. These are taking SSRIs and leaving them in the dust. This is a huge market. We have 95 million people in self-funded plans, and the sickest 2.5%, who definitely can't get to see a psychiatrist, are accounting for $106 billion in spend just in the self-funded employer population. We have market traction, which is great. We were called into existence when the Spotify called us right after George Floyd was murdered and said, help us with our team. This is awful. And then our company was born. We have our first fully capitated client at the beginning of 2021. We just signed the contract for our second fully capitated client today. Today, 425 lives. They weld the metal enclosures that keep the data for everything online, and they're in Wisconsin. And one client, one large employer of 30,000 covered lives brings us to 14 million ARR at the beginning of next year. And today, the broker for that client was pitching Pareto, which is the largest stop-loss carrier in the country. So what we do is we make the journey for patients not suck. It's pretty simple. When you have people who are really suffering, the highest utilizers in the system, and they haven't been getting relief for years, we bring them together with expert treaters, bring them to remission by using treatments that would have otherwise required endless prior authorization. They get to live a composed and useful life, if we want to quote a Thorazine ad from when that was released, but for real. So we have more effective treatments getting people well, and people love that. The copay on this is $0 because we drive down general medical spend by doing this and inpatient hospitalization. We actually want unwell people to get well, which is the opposite of the incentives for traditional payers. 90% reduction in inpatient hospitalization or greater. This reduces pharmacy spend. We've had stop loss underwrite our approach to the tune of $30 per employee per month. And our family having hope for the first time in 3 years for a young person. A lot of the people affected severely are dependents. The right diagnosis can give me my life back, and that takes longer in some appointments than the 45 minutes 90867 will pay for. And instead of rearranging furniture in a burning house, we rip that down and build a solid foundation that requires a new payment model, and that's what Sphere is. We're raising $3 million on a 15 valuation, and we also generate a lot of money. That's unfortunately in Canadian dollars because there was a keynote there. But we're going to be really, our designer is in Canada.
Okay,
so done. Thanks.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about. So very exciting. So now I'm gonna make an audible. Jen Bodden, come on up. Longtime investor, first time panelist. So welcome to the stage, Jen Bodden. So we lost our Viking goddess, Miami founder Meta Dierberg, who you all know already, and so I replaced her with another. So Jen, you want to tell us like for 10 seconds about you? Maybe 15.
Hi, I'm Jen Bodden. I started investing in early stage technology before 2000, about 2 years before that. I became the youngest, only female managing director at a technology investment bank, and we would pull in, they'd get 20 minutes and we'd pull in every Friday we'd have meet the managing directors, and we would invest in some of the companies. So I've been building technology companies and doing this sort of round robin most of my adult life.
And this is, no, you hold on to that.
Okay.
This is one of the things I love about this crowd, because like I could probably pull out 80% of you and guys have you as judges, right? Because you're amazing folks, right? So Jen, thank you. Do you have a question for Owen? I know
I don't, because you were talking to me.
I know, I was
Exactly.
recruiting her for the panel, so yeah. Anyway, so anyone else have a question for Owen?
Hi, so great presentation. Lovely to talk. I used to be a medical director for an insurance plan. I know how hard it is to get behavioral health done. So you went directly to an employer whose employees are suffering. Are they going to tell the employer that they are suffering?
So
what's the firewall between the employer and them losing their job potentially and getting the services that they really need?
So it turns out many of the people suffering the most are actually dependents. But this is already in the claims data.
Owen.
Yeah.
In the back, you guys hear Owen or no? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because I talk really loud.
I'm just checking, Owen. I'm just checking. Go ahead.
So the claims data is what we start with. And so we're seeing people who are already racking up inpatient hospitalizations, ER visits. These are people who are already high utilizers as our first tranche of patients we're reaching out to, and they are not quiet about it. They are suffering and they want to feel better. Yes.
Americans with Disabilities Act is supposed to help not having people be fired, because mental health is a disability.
Right, but then tell that to the employer.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Well, they have a big action against them, and I think employers are aware of that.
Guys, use the mic. Not everybody's Owen.
That was weird.
I also went to law school, and I specialized in Americans with Disabilities Act. I lived a long life, and employers suffer if they try to fire someone who's claiming mental health.
It's a hesitancy, it's not a real thing, it's a hesitancy.
Guys, questions for Owen?
That is the question. How do you protect the employee?
Yeah, how do you what
Okay, good question. How do you protect the employee?
The same way HR does, right? We're not working with employers to tell them who is unwell. They have that protection when people go to HR, and HR is there to protect the company. They don't want to know who has impairments because of the very ADA reasons she brought up. So they have every incentive to not know. We also encrypt the data across 2 different clouds. So the actual identifier information would be on Azure, and the actual information would be on the, say, AWS. So we only put those together so you know who the person is and the information when there is a query. So even if you hack AWS, you only get the names, and you hack Azure, you get the data, you don't know who they are. So we're thinking about that in advance. Yes.
Perfect blockchain.
Yeah.
Kermit asks, how are you going to use blockchain as
we are in the Cello Camp 4 like pre-camp, so that's next week.
I just want to know who's underwriting it and who's going to be funding the payments.
So self-funded employers spend $64 per member per month for access to the behavioral network of one of the major employers, in which, when I started in one of the networks in New York, there were 4 psychiatrists in the city in that network. I was one of them by accident. And they paid $64 per member per month at JP Morgan Chase to have access to 1, 2, 3, 4 doctors, and I actually saw no patients from that employer. So you're not getting much for what you're spending now.
So Dr. Jennifer Priya, yes, go ahead.
Have you thought of looking at insurer networks instead of going to the employer route?
Yes, so the insurer networks are full of nobody. They're ghost networks. So there isn't anyone in them because they pay so little, and anyone in them is full. Yeah.
And have you done any customer discovery on in that area?
Sorry?
Have you done any customer discovery in that area?
Oh yeah, I mean we've been down the road with a number of large employers for value-based care. They don't have the right incentives to actually do it because their incentives are to have costs go up every year.
What does this cost? What is this?
So that 14 million ARR is at 40 per employee per month, and the model is a shared savings approach. So at the end of the year, we settle up with employers for the delta between what they were spending on average in the prior 3 years and what we saved.
It costs $40 a month.
$40 per employee per month. That's correct.
And how did you prove your efficacy on that?
We've been running the outpatient practice Brooklyn Mines down the street with the highest acuity cohort you can find for 6 years, and our hospitalization rate is 1.2% in a cohort screened for high acuity.
So her question was, how do you know that it works? And his answer is, I see a lot of patients, and we've been doing this for years, and it works. So
70 of us have been doing this for years.
So, 70. So let me just say, you're out of time, and congratulations, great job. Owen Muir. Go listen to him in the Frontier Psychiatrist on Clubhouse. If you're not on Clubhouse, please come. There's an enormous MedStarter Club there. It's like 20,000 people. I'm sorry, 16,500 plus a bunch of others. So we run 20 to 40 rooms a week like this on MedStarter Healthcare Innovative Club. Yeah, so we started that during COVID, and it's we run, this is our 215th event. We've done it live, but we've done 660 on Clubhouse. It's January 6th. Thank you, Emedevents, for inviting me to Clubhouse. And to all of those who did not invite me to Clubhouse first, yeah, thanks. So we got one more pitch, and she's actually sort of double pitch. She's got a company called NeuroSonics, which is really interesting, but she also represents the Maryland Development Center, which is seems like a public-private partnership. You can tell us about that for a second or two. But this is our last pitch. After that, we're going to do networking. And I just want to see a show of hands. Would you guys like to have more networking, or do you want to hear a panel of our panelists and go around and talk about the future of healthcare? Show of hands. Networking?
What are we?
Networking.
Would you guys rather have a set panel, or would you rather just hang out and drink?
Networking.
Okay, so anybody? Show of hands. Panel?
Yeah, we have one.
Networking. Panel? Networking. Okay, so one more pitch, and then we're just gonna hang out. So come on up. Now, is the correct pronunciation now?
Nao. Like
Nao.
Naomi.
Like Naomi.
Yes.
Okay, Patrick, is Naomi ready? Okay, she's good. Doctor, I'm sorry. Doctor. Yes, so Patrick is your timer. We have 4 minutes. Now, hang on. Did anybody actually fill out the forms for Owen? I know he's very distracting. Okay, and if you're doing the electronic one, you gotta do something in that.
Electronic doesn't work.
What?
Yeah, the QR cards didn't work. I tried it, he tried it.
You seen the QR codes didn't work?
Both sides.
I can't hear you. The QR codes didn't work.
The QR code didn't
It
work.
says you need permission, so you just need to just click something.
Seriously? So did anybody use the electronic version?
No, I still
You can't.
And you didn't tell us about it?
I knew. I told
Okay,
you.
hopefully everybody's logged. Okay, please fill out a paper. I haven't seen a lot of people write it, so okay, so 4 minutes, last pitch, and please fill out a paper.
Hello, I'm Nao Gamo. I'm a PhD neuroscientist turned entrepreneur, and I'm the founder and CEO of NeuroSonics Medical. Next, please.
You have to.
Oh, thank you.
I know, they like to trick us.
NeuroSonics Medical is harnessing sound waves and a minimally invasive approach to provide an alternative surgical treatment for drug-resistant epilepsy. Our goal is to provide these patients give these patients back their livelihoods, their independence, and their plans for the future. There are around 3 million adults in the U.S. with epilepsy, and the first line of treatment is usually anti-seizure medications. However, over 1 million, or almost 40% of these patients have drug-resistant epilepsy, which means that they fail to respond adequately at least to 2 anti-seizure medications. However, in many cases, these patients have been struggling for years, even decades, trying to find a treatment that works. A fraction of patients with drug-resistant epilepsy undergo surgical treatment each year. The standard of care for that is an open brain surgery to remove the part of the brain underlying the seizures. And while the majority of these patients do experience significant improvement in seizure control, brain surgery can come with debilitating side effects. NeuroSonics Medical is introducing an alternative surgical method to treat drug-resistant epilepsy. We're developing a miniaturized focused ultrasound device that's inserted through a hole, and ultrasound waves can be focused to essentially burn brain tissue at a safe distance away from the tip of the probe. Our device is designed to provide precise, personalized treatment for each patient without the risks of traditional surgery. And we believe that we can improve clinical outcomes for the majority of surgical candidates with drug-resistant epilepsy. We are commercializing cutting-edge research from the #1 neurosurgery department and biomedical engineering program in the country at the Johns Hopkins University. And our technology has been funded by grants from Johns Hopkins, TEDCO, and the National Science Foundation. Our device is designed to be much less invasive than traditional surgery while overcoming the shortcomings of more recent technologies like laser ablation and transcranial focused ultrasound. Specifically, our device has enhanced flexibility in the shape, size, and location of the target region. What that means is that our device can more completely resect the desired brain region, giving many more patients the chance to be seizure-free. And indeed, hospitals are shifting towards less invasive procedures, and our target addressable market is almost $1 billion with the capital purchase alone. And our target market is expected to increase as more patients learn about and choose to undergo surgical treatments, and as we expand into additional applications like pediatric epilepsy, brain tumors, and intracranial hemorrhage. We've assembled a strong interdisciplinary team to take this device to market. I'm the founder and CEO, and my background includes 15 years in neuroscience research. Dr. Muir is the lead inventor of our device, and he's an ultrasound and neurosurgery expert at Johns Hopkins. Dr. Jim Kang is an epileptologist at Johns Hopkins, and her research interests focus on drug-resistant epilepsy and minimally invasive surgical treatments. NeuroSonics Medical is, as he mentioned, a portfolio company at the Maryland Development Center, a startup studio in Baltimore, Maryland. And Drs. Hemingway, Blankenship, and Restaino from NBC serve as business and technical advisors. Finally, NeuroSonics Medical is a minority and woman-owned company in an opportunity zone in Baltimore City. So far, we've raised over $500,000 in grant funding to reach our first major milestone, which is to design and build an ultrasound transducer that's small enough to be safely inserted into the brain while packing enough power to be able to burn brain tissue. And after burning and breaking it several times, we finally reached our final design. The investment that we're raising now will help us reach our next major milestone here you go. Will help us reach our next major milestone, which is to, no demos today, which is to reach our next major milestone, which is to perform our first preclinical study to test for safety and efficacy in live animal model. And we would love to have your support moving forward. Yes, thank you.
That is how you pitch, folks. That is how you pitch. That is wonderful, well-trained. Obviously, she knows what she's doing. She's been grilled through a PhD program. I've been through that myself. Some, especially in sciences, right?
Yeah.
So I'm glad you brought your device.
Yes, it's a dummy version.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah. And you can't really do a demo. Although I'm sure a lot of people with epilepsy, would love it because there's really no treatment. The treatments that exist are terrible. Okay, so questions, panelists. Anybody have questions for? Go ahead, Pamela. Speak it to you.
My beloved cat. Are these one of the target?
That's an excellent question. Does it work on animals? Right? I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's a great question. Go ahead.
Yes, so not in animals yet. For animals, we would need to do a lot more studies and probably redesign the device to make sure that it can fit, different species and, a lot of the different species and even, even the different breeds have different shaped heads and things like that. So no animals yet.
Well, what are you testing on?
Oh, so the animal models that we would use, we would test it in a pig, not necessarily not an epilepsy model, just because they have a similar brain structure anatomically to us. So that's why we're doing it in animals first. And it's not an epilepsy model. It's just to show that you can ablate where it's expected to ablate and to check for inflammation around the ablation region.
So it's not efficacy.
Okay, next question.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah. So just the ablation.
All right, so great concept. Thank you for bringing it up over here. So this is an ablation. It's like when you're inserting it under the skin on top of the dura, or is it going inside of the flesh?
It's going inside. Yes, it's not non-invasive, it's minimally invasive, so it's going in through a burr hole in the skull. And we're actually, I didn't mention this here, but we're actually designing it to go through a trocar from a company called NICO, it's called the brain path stroke. It's essentially a tube with a pointed tip that you insert through a groove into the brain. And this is already routinely used for minimally invasive neurosurgery, so that surgeon can insert tools while minimizing damage to the surrounding tissue. And so we're working with them so that our device is designed to go through one of these.
Sorry, I have a frontier psychiatrist here. I gotta let him ask.
So, why this and not say DES, which is reversible in internal growth?
Right. So we've talked to a lot of neurologists and neurosurgeons, and so there are a lot of neurostimulation devices like RNS, DBS, and so on that are being used for epilepsy. So I've heard both, some surgeons and neurologists who say, we don't want to do something irreversible and destroy brain tissue, but then we also have surgeons saying, if there's a problem, we want to get rid of the problem rather than try to do palliative things. So I think, depending on the situation. So so our advice would be suitable where the seizure focus can be clearly identified and it's not next to a critical region. Yes.
Great question. I'm sorry, this question now?
Hi, I didn't see anything about patents.
Oh, yes.
Excellent question. Patents.
Yes, so we have one patent that's going through, that's a non-provisional application now that's going through office action that belongs to Johns Hopkins, and so our company is currently discussing terms for the option, an exclusive option to license. We're also preparing to submit a provisional application for additional features that's assigned to the company.
So Johns Hopkins owns the technology right now?
Yes, it does, yeah. Yeah.
That sucks.
Yes, we're dealing with that.
I know Edward's studying the week. I'm not going to go ahead and have this done. So, Ed, do you have a succinct question?
Yeah, multi-part, five. No. Actually, my daughter just graduated from Hopkins, an awesome new institution. I think you just hit on the question. Why isn't Hopkins going ahead and commercializing this as opposed to you? Because Bloomberg wants his money.
Okay, so the question is commercialization strategies within the behemoth academic institution in New York.
Well, nobody else is trying to license and taking for it. I'm also working very closely with the inventor, who is an assistant professor of neurosurgery at Hopkins, so we have his support and support from the professor.
Okay, that's going to be the last question. Sorry for that long. But we are going to a networking period. So if you will please fill out those forms. Okay, if you haven't done it, I'm sorry about the electronic one. I wish somebody told us about it earlier. Thank you for eventually telling us. But by now it's way too late. So if everybody will fill out the forms, or if you haven't filled out the forms, just use the ranking of who your favorite were. Okay, so if you haven't done it, just say make sure you fill out your top 3 teams. Okay, and if you're interested in trying or working with any of these companies. Okay, and then please give them to Avisha, or Patrick, or me. But now, actually, Avisha is going to tell you a little bit about a product from a company that started with Rex. Yes?
She want to talk about her Maryland.
Oh, the Maryland Development
yes.
Center? Okay, while Avi gets ready for that, why don't you tell us about the Maryland Development Center?
Yes, so the Maryland Development Center, where NeuroSonics and the portfolio company is, so it's actually, it's a startup studio in an opportunity zone in Baltimore, Maryland. We're focused on health and medical technologies, and it's actually, so it's not a public-private partnership, it's a private company, but it was founded by a group of clinicians at the University of Maryland and an engineering professor, because a lot of these clinicians, most of whom are surgeons, had ideas for tools that they wanted to build, but they were frustrated with the tech transfer process at the university. So they got together and created this startup studio to take these ideas forward. And so now we've also have some Hopkins technologies, including ours, and we're very hands-on. We'll build these companies and technologies with the founders and inventors. And also, another thing is that one of the unique things about us is that we have a big emphasis on early prototyping. So actually, most of the people on staff there are young engineers. So we'll make the first ugly prototype so that we can show it to investors, we can apply for grant funding and so on.
Okay, cool.
So yes, please come visit us and let me know if you have any more questions. Yes.
And maybe we'll do our next event in Maryland Development
Yes.
So for startups, if I'm a startup and I'm in New York, how is the Ground Development Center helping?
Yes, so actually, since the pandemic, we've started doing everything a lot of things virtually. The engineers, the engineers actually took home 3D printers, started printing things and mailing them to each other. That didn't work as well as doing it in person, but we've actually started talking to people all over the place. We also do a meetups. Started a meetup series called the Health Tech Entrepreneurs Meetups.
What a great idea.
Yeah, I know. Yes, I didn't know. I can't believe I didn't know about MedStarter already.
Well, it's used to call Health Support on you.
Yes. So we actually have people who've been attending from Canada, actually, yes, we have some from New York, people from California, so we're getting out there.
That's awesome. Big round of applause for. So let me tell you about MedStarter Direct. So MedStarter Direct isn't just a vendor fund, isn't just an accelerator, isn't just putting up your, isn't just a global community of innovators, isn't just Clubhouse. We also started a professional sales organization last year called MedStarter Direct. And one of the products, which Abhishek is not only TikTok famous, so you guys, anybody on TikTok? Come on. TikTok. So this guy's got like millions of views on TikTok for his amazing COVID-19 videos. But one of the things that MedStarter Direct is selling to governments and train stations and every schools is the what is this thing called? I was going to tell you about.
Alex, the expert in all that we're doing.
Hey, I can't know everything.
All right, I'm sure you guys are very sick of sitting, so I'll try to make this very short. But one thing I'm sure you're sick of even more is COVID-19. So, MedStarter Direct basically started at the start of the pandemic when we realized that MedStarter was sitting in between a lot of really cool innovations and a lot of stakeholders within the medical space who can make use of said innovations. And we tried to go through and figure out which ones do we have access to that are actually really applicable to the pandemic that could make a difference. And ActivePure is basically what we settled on as the top of the total. It is a type of air purification technology that works fundamentally different from your standard type of filter. Because most filters were developed back in the 1800s to prevent coal miners from breathing in dust, in the 1940s to prevent various different types of gaseous contaminants during World War II. In general, when you have an HVAC system, they're designed to take particulates from the outside and filter them when they come inside. What they're not designed to do is prevent the spread of disease within a space. If I'm in a room and I'm infectious, I cough, I sneeze, I breathe, I'm emitting infectious viral particles that can go and spread throughout the space, infecting other people before they ever have a chance to go out of a return duct, pass through whatever filter is in there, and then get spread back into the room. So what ActivePure does is it actually reproduces the same self-cleaning mechanism found in the atmosphere. Normally you find the sun, it shines on oxygen and water that's in the atmosphere, and it converts them into oxidative particles that are then able to go and break down the millions of megatons of pollutants that we put into the atmosphere every year. And what it also does is it punctures the membranes of viruses and bacteria that are floating throughout the air, inactivating them, and eventually breaking down the CO2 and the H2O. What ActivePure does is it uses a photocatalytic oxidation-based technology where it essentially is using a UV bulb and this cool little honeycomb matrix to not directly kill pathogens, but instead it converts the water and oxygen that's going through the unit, and then it puts out into the air those same oxidative particles that you would normally find outside in the self-cleaning mechanism. And in so doing, it suffuses the space, so if I'm in the room, I cough, I sneeze, suddenly everything that is floating around the air starts getting broken down. And this has been in use for over a decade now, in very niche applications pre-pandemic for people who really care about air quality. But suddenly we realized when COVID started that hey, the actual best thing that this does is puncture viral membranes and provides a very real-time reduction in the potential spread. It was installed in schools before the pandemic and actually produced an 80% reduction in flu-related dismissals year to year after it was installed. It's been installed in hospitals, reducing the amount of MRSA on surfaces and in air, because when these things encounter surfaces, it reduces these surface contaminations. And now we're actually in trials at the Cleveland Clinic, in hospitals in Canada, the US, and schools, over 40 states, and throughout all sorts of different countries. So basically we're trying to make a tech that can fundamentally change the way that we return to spaces and provide another layer of protection on top of things like vaccines and masks, but in ways that don't rely on the decisions of the individuals, and instead shift things upwards so that the landlords and governments can actually create spaces that are safer both for this virus and for ones going forward. And I think that's about enough for now, but it's cool.
Thank you. Questions from the panel? Does anybody have forms they filled out? Anyone? Anyone? Thank you.
The process. Why don't we just use trees? 2 points. So number one, puncturing viral membrane is actually a process called lipid peroxidation. It's a bit more complicated, but it does. SARS-CoV-2 is a coronavirus. It's got a lipid bilayer. When these particles encounter those lipids, they process of lipid peroxidation where it does puncture them and then induces a whole reaction chain that basically inactivates it. Why don't we just use trees? Well, for several reasons. Number one, it's hard to put an oak in here, but also if you look at the actual rate that a plant is able to go and cleanse the air, I would have to go and get like 80 plants and put them throughout my bedroom to get the equivalent air purification of a single air purifier. Unfortunately, the whole concept of using plants as air purification sort of started based on some faulty studies that more recent studies have found that they really don't do enough indoors, unfortunately.
They really don't do what?
They don't have a good effect indoors numerically. It's a very small effect.
So I think we've all been sitting way too long, and I just want to thank everybody, my judges, my panelists, and all of our pitchers. Really amazing job. I'm super inspired to see all these great companies. I'm sorry about the form problem, and hopefully everybody. We got a lot of data from the paper forms, so we appreciate those. And I know it means healthcare, right? We still like paper, right? Anyway, so we're just going to be networking, hang out. We can be here pretty much as long as we want. And we have Warren. And Ali Shah is also our resident mixologist, also our chief science officer around here at MedStarter. Also has his own startup called Priya Biotech, which refills EpiPens for like 1/10 of the cost of an EpiPen. So another inventor genius like we've seen others here today. So this is actually an active cure unit. I don't know if you pointed this out, but it's been killing COVID virus particles if they're here.
So molecule is bogus if this is the real thing.
Pardon me?
Molecule is bogus, right?
Yeah. Molecule.
Okay, if you guys want to keep talking about this, I'm not. If you guys want to keep talking, I'm not going to stop you. Thanks all for coming. I mean, this is. So I'll tell you, we did our first event in Orlando, and 3 people came. Then we did Philadelphia, Ed Buxtell's hometown. 6 people came, and then we did back in New York with Shereese, and about 15 people came. And we did Chicago, and 40 people came. So tonight about 80 people came. So just like COVID. So anyway, so thank you everybody for coming. Thanks for filling out the form. Please enjoy each other and food and drinks and everything. So that's it, we're done. And now we can actually